In year 1983, North London's Kenley Garden apartment were not able to do completion, but landlord's excuse was that this is an old building. That's why wastewater drains slowly. We can't do much. Now, due to many complaints, the landlord finally had to call a plumbing company. On February 8, 1983, around 6 p.m. in the evening, the plumbing company sends an experienced plumber named Mike to that location. "Brother, go see what happened there." So Mike immediately reaches the site with his vehicle. Seeing him, the people there run. They run and come to him. After hearing people's complaint, he opens the backside sewer lid of the building to check the blockage. Now, as soon as Mike flashes light into that sewer hole, there he sees many hairs, napkins, and pieces of paper, all mashed up and completely blocking the pipe. After finding the cause of the blockage, Mike quickly wears gloves and starts pulling out the filth. He had brought a small bucket with him in which he started putting all the filth. After cleaning the main visible filth, he starts slowly putting his hand inside the pipe. He lets his whole arm go inside. Everything was going fine so far. Then suddenly his hand hits some strange object. He tries to move his fingers around to feel what's there, but he surely couldn't figure out what that object was that just touched his hand a second ago. By touching, it felt soft, and inside that soft thing, he also felt some hard material. He tried to pull that thing too, but not much came in his hand. But whatever did come felt weird. When Mike looked at that thing closely, he felt it could be meat, like some kind of flesh piece. And that hard material, he felt, those were small pieces of bones inside that meat. Until here, everything was still fine. But Mike was surprised, because in his whole life, he had never seen such strange meat. Mike had cleaned hundreds of sewer pipes, but it never happened that the cause of a pipe's blockage was meat, and that too, such meat that he had never seen in his life. Now, after seeing all this, Mike was not feeling good. And on top of that, it was very late at night. He couldn't understand how to clean it. So he thought, tomorrow morning I'll bring my supervisor along so he can tell how to clean it. Mike stopped his work there and started walking toward his truck. Seeing him return, 2 residents ran to him and asked, "Brother, where are you going? Have you cleared the blockage?" Mike replied, "No, there's a lot of filth stuck inside, and some pieces of meat are also stuck there, and it's too late at night. I can't clean it alone." Of the 2 residents who ran to Mike, one of them jokingly said, "Seems like people eat less of their KFC chicken and throw more of it away." Mike responded, "Look, I've been doing this work for many years, but I'm seeing such a thing for the first time in my life." Then he sat in his truck and went back. Next morning, Mike comes with his supervisor and gives him full information about the blockage. They both lift the sewer lid. Mike checks the blockage in front of his boss. But as soon as Mike puts his hand into the pipe, his ground slips beneath his feet, and he keeps staring at his boss in shock. His boss asks, "What happened? Why do you look so shaken?" Mike was still confused, because the blockage he had found yesterday inside the pipe was now suddenly gone, meaning someone had deliberately cleaned that pipe already. Now Mike and his supervisor kept staring at each other. Then Mike said, "This is not possible that the blockage disappeared on its own. Who did this hard job? If they wanted to clean it themselves, why did they call us?" Anyway, Mike and his supervisor thought, "What do we care? We just need to finish the job." After that, they started checking every house's pipe to find if there's any blockage at the back. Now listen carefully. When they were checking each house's pipe, they found that all pipes were perfectly clean, except one, apartment number 23. Mike and his supervisor had no idea that the apartment they were checking was soon going to be printed in history books. What mystery was hidden in apartment 23? When you hear it, your eyes will pop out. Apartment 23. It was the same apartment from where a terrifying material was being supplied into the area's sewer pipes, meaning in apartment 23's pipe, the same meaty substance was found, which Mike had discovered during inspection the previous night, and which had mysteriously disappeared by next morning. Now Mike and his supervisor already felt something was not right with that place, because strange incidents were happening there, like someone unknown cleaning the pipe blockage at night, and nobody even knowing about it. And then, The same meat pieces again being found in someone's apartment pipe. After seeing all this, Mike and his supervisor raised their hands, gave up. Mike called the landlord and said, "Look, we're not going to touch this pipe. You can call someone else if you want. We are leaving from here." And when the landlord found out that in apartment number 23's pipe, bones and meat were lying jammed, he became very scared. He immediately called the police. When police arrived at the location, they collected a sample of that meat and sent it to the lab for testing. The next day, when the report came to the police, they opened the envelope, and as soon as they read it, everyone's breath got stuck for a moment. The report revealed that the meat, that is, the flesh sent for testing, was not ordinary meat or bone fragments, but it was human body flesh. The report also said that the meat piece that was sent was a part of a human neck. As soon as this was found out, the police immediately rushed to apartment 23 in Canley Garden. They knocked on the door, and as soon as the door opened, a very strong rotten stench came out of that apartment. The smell was so horrible that even the police officers stepped back for a moment. Two of the officers standing there even vomited. The man who opened the door was around 35 to 40 years old. He told his name was Dennis Nilsson. The police asked him, "Can we check your apartment for 2 minutes?" But Dennis responded, "Why? What will you find here?" So police told Dennis, "From your drainage pipe, human parts were found." Upon hearing this, Dennis was shocked for a moment. Then he started speaking in a roundabout way with the police. He said, "That's not possible. Maybe you've entered the wrong house. That might be someone else's pipe." But police said, "Stop the nonsense. Tell us quietly, where have you hidden the rest of the body?" Upon hearing this, it was as if Dennis turned to stone. He froze, without any expression. He turned back, and while pointing his finger toward his bedroom, he said, "The body is inside 2 plastic bags in my cupboard." Before the police went into his bedroom to search, they asked Dennis one more time, "Dennis, is there any other body in your apartment that you want to tell us about, and we should know?" Then Dennis took a long breath and kept staring at the ceiling. The police standing at the door asked, "What's up there?" Dennis replied and said, "There's a graveyard above. Don't go there." The police entered the house and looked up, and they were shocked. The entire ceiling was red with blood. Fresh drops of blood were still dripping from the ceiling. Before the police went into his bedroom to search, they asked Dennis one more time, "Dennis, is there any other body in your apartment that you want to tell us about, and we should know?" Then Dennis took a long breath and kept staring at the ceiling. The police, standing at the door, asked, "What's up there?" Dennis replied and said, "There's a graveyard above. Don't go there." The police entered the house and looked up, and they were shocked. The entire ceiling was red with blood. Fresh drops of blood were still dripping from the ceiling. Then suddenly, Dennis, don't know why, starts laughing and says, "There might be 15 to 20 dead bodies upstairs." As soon as they heard this, the police officers were shaken to their core. Their mouths were wide open. Then police asked, "What are you doing? And who are you?" Dennis slowly replied, "This is a long story, and I want to share everything to lighten my heart. Do you have the courage to listen?" The police said, "Go ahead, speak." But Dennis said, "Not here. I will tell everything at the police station." After that, Dennis was handcuffed, and when he was being taken to the police station, he was going crazy with happiness on the way. He kept saying, "Take me quickly to the police station. You're driving too slow. I want to tell my story and light my mind." Now, as soon as the car stops at the police station gate, Dennis gets out of the car and starts laughing loudly. Then some police officers take him to the interrogation room. They sit Dennis on a chair and ask, "Now tell us, what did you want to say?" After that, he begins to spill the most horrifying story in England's history. He was about to tell something for which no one sitting there was prepared to hear. Dennis, one by one, made everyone's hair stand up, gave goosebumps. While he was telling his story, His horrifying laughter in between was enough to scare everyone, as if the devil himself was sitting on a chair in front of them, feet slowly up to the head. And you don't watch movie. You must know what it's like. Very cheesy and blackened sun. Note, unclear mix of mumbling English in original recording. In 1978, 5 years before Dennis was caught. This was the year where this painful story begins. That time, Dennis's age was around 33 years. One night, he was sitting peacefully in a club drinking alcohol. Then suddenly the front door opens, and a teenager walks in and comes inside the bar. He came to buy vodka, but the bartender refused to give him anything because the boy was still under 18 years old. Or you could say he was still a child. Look, when Dennis saw all this happening, he called out to the boy from behind. Hearing this, the boy walked over to him. Then Dennis took the boy aside and said, "Do you want a drink?" The boy said, "Yes." Then Dennis replied, "If you want, you can come to my house. We both can drink there." That 14-year-old boy, whose name was Stephen Holmes, agreed quickly, and both of them started walking toward Dennis's house. When they reached home, they drank a lot, enjoyed themselves, and eventually both fell asleep on the same bed. The next morning, when Dennis woke up, he saw his little friend Stephen was still asleep on the bed, but he didn't know why. He was deeply afraid inside that as soon as Stephen wakes up, he will leave Dennis and go away, and never become his friend forever. This thought was eating Dennis from the inside. The idea of being separated from Stephen didn't feel right to him at all, because he wanted to keep Stephen with him forever. Suddenly, his eyes fell on Stephen's necktie lying on the floor. Dennis picked up the tie, sat down comfortably, made a noose from it, climbed on Stephen's chest, and put that noose around Stephen's neck, then pulled it as hard as he could. Dennis told the police, "As soon as I started pulling the tie tightly, Stephen woke up." At that time, Stephen couldn't understand what was happening to him. He even tried to pull the tie off his neck, kicked and punched, but nothing worked, because he was just a 14-year-old kid. What else could he have done? In the end, Stephen gave up. His hands and feet stopped moving. There was no movement left in his body. Dennis said, "I took off the noose." At that time, Stephen looked completely relaxed. But when I let him go, I realized that Stephen wasn't dead yet. He was just unconscious. After that, Dennis filled a bucket with water and started dipping Stephen's head in that bucket. He held Stephen's head so tightly that the boy couldn't free himself even if he wanted to, and that's exactly what happened. Stephen regained consciousness, but he didn't try to fight at all, and in just a few minutes, the bubbles in the water stopped rising. That means Stephen, the 14-year-old boy, was killed by that monster's hands. But Dennis still wasn't satisfied. He picked up Stephen and sat him down on a chair in front of him. Then Dennis went into the kitchen and calmly made a cup of coffee for himself. While sipping the coffee, he kept staring into Stephen's eyes. Not only that, Dennis lit a cigarette and placed it in Stephen's mouth, and also smoked a cigarette himself. The police sitting in front were completely shaken. Then Dennis said to them, "It was a very strange experience, because Stephen, even after dying, looked as if he would stand up any moment." Dennis said, "He looked like he would stand up any moment." He explained that he kept talking to Stephen. His eyes were open, and it felt like he was calmly listening to me. After killing Stephen, Dennis realized his life would never be the same again. Now, he had completely changed, and a new life was about to begin. Look, Dennis had started his new life, but he still didn't know how to handle it. So the first thing he did was bathe Stephen. He took Stephen to the bathroom and bathed him thoroughly. After bathing him, he dressed him in good clothes. After that, Dennis laid Stephen's corpse on the bed and lay down beside him himself. Dennis said, "In that moment, I felt an incredible joy that I can't even describe in words, because now Stephen would never leave me. He would stay with me for as long as I wanted." Lying on the bed beside Stephen, Dennis kept talking to him. After a while, Dennis suddenly realized that now he must hide Stephen's body. Otherwise, he would get caught. So he went to a shop and brought back a cutter machine. But when he returned home and started cutting Stephen's body into small pieces, he suddenly began to feel sleepy. He stopped everything and decided to take a short nap, lay down on the bed peacefully, as if nothing had happened. After waking up, he made Stephen sit on the sofa and began doing regular house chores. He made dinner and other things, and even watched TV while eating dinner beside the dead Stephen. Then suddenly, he focused again on Stephen's body and started thinking of where to hide it. He remembered that one wooden floor tile in his apartment was loose. He began to pull it up, and when he looked below, he realized there was quite a bit of space. He picked up Stephen's body and began placing it inside. But by now, Stephen's body had become very stiff. His hands were raised upwards and had stiffened in that position. Dennis forcefully pulled Stephen's arms down, shook them, bent them, until his arms were pressed to his sides. As soon as Stephen's body fit inside the hole, Dennis placed the tiles back in their original place and went back to doing his daily routine work. He walked around the house as if nothing had ever happened. But then a few weeks passed, and Dennis began to miss Stephen again. He wanted to see him one more time, so he pulled up those tiles again and took Stephen's body back out. He bathed him, cleaned him, and then in the same water in which he had bathed Stephen, Dennis bathed himself as well. After bathing, he looked at Stephen carefully, talked to him again, and then once more hid Stephen's corpse in the same place. 7 months had now passed. Stephen's body was still buried underneath, and one night, when Dennis came home, he finally thought, now it's time to dispose of Stephen's body. How long will I keep this dead body with me? Dennis took out Stephen's decaying body, talked to him for a few hours, and then took it behind the apartment and burned it. When the body was completely burned, Dennis couldn't believe what he had done. He thought, I just committed a murder and got away with it easily. And because of that, his confidence grew even stronger. After that, he committed another murder in exactly the same way, then a third, and then a fourth. Doing this again and again, he turned his house into a graveyard. But this psycho killer used to do something even more disturbing with the dead bodies. He would tell the second dead body the story of his first murder and tell the third one about the second murder. That means he used to tell every new corpse the stories of all his previous murders. He murdered around 16 people, and all the murders were done in the same way, strangling them and then drowning their heads in water. After killing them, he kept the bodies hidden in his own house for months. Some were hidden in the closet, some in the cabinet, some on the rooftop, and some under the bed, under the same bed where he used to sleep. There wasn't a single corner in his house where he hadn't hidden a corpse. He told the police, as long as the corpses were in my house, I would sometimes take them out, spend time with them, talk to them, and then hide them again. He also said he found the dead bodies to be very beautiful. They mesmerized him. They attracted him. That's why he always wanted to keep them close. He hadn't left a single corner in the house where he hadn't hidden a dead body. He told the police, as long as the corpses stayed in my house, I would sometimes take them out, spend time with them, talk to them, and then hide them again. He also said, I found the corpses to be very beautiful. They fascinated me. They attracted me toward them. That's why I always wanted to keep them with me. But by the time 1983 came, so many dead bodies had piled up in his house that Dennis started feeling he must now get rid of them quickly, otherwise he would get caught, because those decomposing corpses and their stench had started to leak out of his apartment. So now, to dispose of those bodies, he started cutting them into small pieces, and then he began to push those small pieces into his drain pipes. Some pieces he even flushed down the toilet. But by doing this continuously, eventually the drainage system got blocked. And finally, when a plumber named Mike was called, as soon as he put his hand in that sewage to check, he found tiny pieces of human flesh. And the next day, when Mike returned with his supervisor, they found nothing. That was because Dennis had already overheard Mike talking the night before. So after Mike left, Dennis himself went and cleaned out that pipe. And here's a shocking fact. Dennis was the same man who had told Mike while he was leaving, "Looks like people eat less of their KFC chicken and dump more of it down the drain." Yes, that line was spoken by Dennis himself to Mike. Look, Dennis had cleaned the sewage pipe after Mike left, but he had no idea that there were still tiny bits of human flesh stuck in his own pipe. And because of that one mistake, he got caught. After all this had happened, when Dennis was taken to court, even the judge sitting there got shaken for a moment. Dennis was sentenced to life imprisonment, but he had no regret for what he had done. In fact, he even said, "Yes, for committing murders, I deserve to stay in jail." In 2018, after spending 34 years in prison, at the age of 72, Dennis died inside the jail. Look, Dennis may have been caught, but who knows how many such psycho killers are still roaming around among us. Take care of your children, because it could be anyone, your friend, your relative, your neighbor, or even you yourself.